most of the time, I had no idea, and none of the other members of the group had any idea what we were going to play until he got on the bandstand, picked up his horn, and started to play. And he wouldn't say, we're going to play this tune or this tune, you know, and reel them off like that in that, or in some sort of order. He'd simply start playing, and you could catch if it happened to be a new piece, then we feel our way through the first couple of courses, and from that point on, it would be a standard as far as we were concerned. Sometimes it could be adapted even sooner. It was almost telepathic the way the ideas were transmitted among the group. The rapport was just that close.
The longest trip we made was through Europe, and we traveled all over the country. And McCoy Tanner, Elvin Jones, and myself, I was with the band at that time. And then Eric Dolphy joined the band. And it opened up a whole new thing, and we began to deal with another dimension in the music.
It's been a good 12 hours under the lights and camera, and, you know, playing these pieces, you know, repetitive over and over again. I think we was played up my favorite things about 50 times that day. And the thing about it, and I didn't mind, you know, it never got boring. It was never, I was never bored at all with the music. Every time we played it, at each repeat of you know, something, you want to see you do something, correct something in the background, no matter what it was. It was a new experience. It was just the same. I think the last take we made of that was probably the strongest one that we did. John's style was completely unconventional. He had a completely unique approach to music, and which was different than many of the other players did.
Yeah, a lot of the musicians didn't know. They was trying to figure out what it was. You know, like, I mean, Cannonball used to stand right next to him, you know, and I guess try to figure out what the structure was or what he was doing, you know.
He was so far in advance of anything that I could conceive. I've never really been that close to anybody that great or that good. Or I had that. I don't know how can I suppose one way of putting it would be to say he had so much confidence in what he was doing. You know, he seemed to have no anything that he wanted to do. It was just a matter of getting to the point, getting to the bandstand, taking out the assembling his instrument and doing it.
I remember one time I was playing, you know, he was playing like one of those 20-minute, 25-minute solos, and like the tune had gotten into maybe in a half hour, this one tune. So like perspiring like I used to perspire a lot, you know, like especially within the summertime. So we had played so long till the stick slipped out of my hand and flew like across the stage and went right across his head, you know. So when we came down off the stage, I said, look, man, I'm sorry, but the stick flew out of my hand. I said, what did you think had happened? He said, this guy finally threw a stick at me for playing off.
I remember one matinee in Philadelphia at a club there. We played one piece for the entire matinee. It was 3 hours. So he just started taking it slow. He got wound up, and the thing went. He just played the complete matinee. We didn't take a break, intermission, anything. Just straight through.
Miles used to ask him and say, well, man, why do you play so long? And he used to tell Miles that once he got involved in whatever he was doing, he didn't know how to cut it off. You know, so Miles used to tell him, say, take the horn out your mouth.
I was sort of apprehensive a little bit about that. I thought John would get started, and forget that we were on doing a television show, and you know, take a half an hour solo, and the thing would be over before he wouldn't get all of his tunes in. But he controlled it pretty well. He was good at that, you know. Which certainly exploded the mess about him being, you know, getting involved that he wasn't conscious of other things going on. He was extremely conscious. He knew exactly where he was, what he was doing all the time. McCoy layout, when he first started to do that, Elvin McCoy layout on a duet kind of contest. When that first started to happen, I was just as surprised as anybody else because I didn't see him give any signals. And, but after a while, I began to understand what it was all about and the reasons for it. Yeah. Once the piano was out of the group, then that whole vacuum that would be there could be filled either rhythmically or with bass or with the expanded harmonics of the horn of his horn itself, his own expanded range, and without any preconceived pattern of chord progression. So he was free of that, and it was a tremendous leap into the future, I think.
Not only did I respect him as a musician, but I began to respect him as a person because of the way that he would live his life.
John was a very sweet guy, you know. I mean, like, all the whole time I knew him, he was a very, very sweet human. I mean, to have that much energy. I never seen him do nothing bad to anybody, you know.
He was so calm, had such a peaceful attitude. It was soothing to be around.
Quel est votre compositeur favori, Bud?
Tony's mother. One of my friends from a long time ago. We used to hang out all day and all night, and that's how I enjoyed it.
Can I say something about this?
You can say, sure. Go ahead, Cecil.
They called me for rehearsal. Max called me anyhow. We had a rehearsal like at, I think it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon at a club on 52nd Street where all the big bands used to work. Clark Monroe owned it. I forget the name of it. So I'm the first one there. Nobody else is there. I'm waiting outside under the canopy. And I see this stranger walks up, looks inside the door, through the door, and he looks at me. He looks through the door, and he looks at me again, and he looks through the door, and then he looks at me again, and he turns around and walks away. He doesn't say anything. That was Bud Powell. First time I ever met him. I didn't know it then at the time.
Did he ever come back to make the rehearsal?
Oh, yeah, we made the rehearsal. Yes, he came back to make the rehearsal. Gaskin, Max, and it was a very interesting rehearsal. The fact that it was the first time I'd ever played, had to phrase music in a different way than I'd been phrasing it. Like, you know, you had to phrase every third note or every 4 notes.
While you were in the Army, what sort of, how did you have records to indicate what sort of modern music was going on?
Oh no, not at that time. When I went in the Army, I hadn't heard Bird. I'd heard about him because Max used to come and tell us all. There's somebody in town who has a different style, different. I did hear Bird. I heard him once on the Uptown House on 138 or 35th Street.
Uh-huh.
When I was working in the Navy, and I used to go there when I finished work at 4 o'clock. I work the midnight shift. We used to go down there, and Bird would be in there playing Cherokee, and he would take 10, 12 choruses, and Ben Webster would be in there saying, "That's a genius. Listen to him." Everybody was raving, and Bird would just be blowing.
But while you were in the Army, how did you?
Well, in the Army, I was just like a Lester Young fan. Lester Young was my main thing, but I was playing alto.
Mm-hmm. Playing alto.
I was playing alto, but I was trying to play like Prez played on the tenor.
Earl Warren used to be another favorite of yours at the time, didn't he? Earl Warren?
Oh, Earl Warren, yeah. Earl Warren, well, actually, I tried to learn solos from both of them, but and when I played alto, like in a big band or section work, I used to try to phrase just like Earl Warren, because to me, he's one of the greatest section leaders. So, leading a section with the sound that he has and everything, he's one of our greatest.
And you can still hear him on any of those like air checks of the basic group. No matter how bad the quality of the recording is, you can still hear Earl's sound.
I tell you, I don't know. I tell you, he used to take me out for a drive in this big Lincoln. He had a sky blue Lincoln. Yeah. And I have been in this car.
Well, Bud Powell was the great professor of the music. And playing the piano, he was able to articulate so much of the bebop language. And of course, we all looked up to Bud Powell. He was one of the gods. And he also lived up on the hill, actually, sort of the beginning of the hill. He lived 141st Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. And that was sort of the beginning of the hill in the way of speaking. And we used to go by and stand outside of Bud's house. He lived on the second floor, one flight up. And we used to listen to Bud practicing and everything, you know. And eventually we began going to, when I got to know him and everything, we'd go up to, we got inside up in the apartment, you know. And we were, you know, I remember Bud's his wife, Frances. And the whole thing, you know, but Bud was really great. Bud was a fantastic player, you know.
Was that one of your early sessions, the one you did with Bud and Fats?
Yeah, that was an early session, and that was a heady experience because that was one of my earliest sessions, and of course it was a great career boost that Bud picked me to play with.
Bud, quel trompettiste, quel saxophoniste aimez-vous?
Saxophone, Johnny Good, with trumpet, Miles Davis.
Et parmi les bassistes?
When he was alive, Oscar Pettiford.
You know. And, of course, I was the youngest guy on the session. I mean, actually, Roy Haynes was on it. I think Tommy Potter, maybe. Bud Powell, Fats Navarro, and myself. So I was sort of the young guy, and so it was a great career boost for me to be chosen by the great Bud Powell. And he was like a mad genius. I mean, he was like Beethoven, you know. I mean, he was just, you know, I remember when we were making the record, we were playing the music, and I made a mistake. And Bud looked over at me, man, just shot me a look, you know. And, you know, so, okay, man, I never made that mistake again, man. Better not. So, but he was like a very intense guy, you know. And so anyway, but Bud was something else. But he was, you know, his music speaks for itself, man. He was really one of the people that defined bebop, really. You know, there's a lot of people tried to be like Bud, but you know, we had Al Haig who was trying to play like Bud, and a whole lot of people. But Bud capsulized all of the bebop tradition. You know, this is why he was so great, really.
Bud, voulez-vous nous dire quels sont vos pianistes préférés?
Al Haig, yeah, he's my idea of perfect pianist.
Bud, voulez-vous citer d'autres pianistes?
I told you Al Haig. Well, let me see. On piano, I always did like Buddy Kyle. Hank Jones.